What's up, anglers? Some of you guys have asked me to create a list of my favorite fall fishing baits for bass. So in today's T-Day episode, I'll be providing you guys 3 baits that I like to use whether I'm on kayak, on land, or on a boat, and I'll be providing you guys some tips and tackle that I use so that you guys could use these lures more effectively and catch fish for yourself. So let's do this. A great lure to use during the fall to cover water is the square bill crankbait. The reason why the square bill is a great lure to cover water is because the special flat bill of the square bill, the flat lip of the square bill, allows you to deflect off a lot of structures. So like things like rocks, some timber. As long as you guys roll through pretty slow, relatively slow over these structure, it's gonna roll right over it and you won't get snagged up, which makes it a very, very great lure to use even on land. Typically, I like to use a shell type crankbait. So it dives somewhere around the 3 feet range. Every brand is a little different. Some do like a 2 to 3, some do a 3 to 4. So look around that range. I like to throw like maybe a natural color one if you have clear water, but I always like to have something a little chartreuse or something yellow to imitate the bluegills. The bluegills could be really, really strong in your body of water, and you want to make sure you imitate your forage. Sometimes when you're constantly retrieving your bait and then you hit a lonesome structure, you do a pause. That pause will cause a reaction strike. So remember that. Another thing I like to do is use floral line. What floral line does is actually sinks. It's heavier than monoline. So a square bill floats, right? So if you combine a floating lure with a sinking line, it actually floats a lot slower. So when you actually bump into something and you do that pause, it doesn't rise very fast. So it actually stays in the strike zone a lot longer, letting the bass hone into that and strike it. For tackle, I like to use 2 different rods depending on your situation. If you have places with less timber, I would like to throw it with light tackle if possible because you can throw it pretty far. I like to use a medium action rod with braid line and floral leader. This will allow me to cast it really, really far and cover a lot of water. Now, if you have a lot of structure around with some timber and stuff like that, I'm gonna use thicker line and heavier action rods. So I will be throwing like maybe like a 20 and 30 pound braid line, but always still floral leader and a medium heavy action rod with a bait caster. The reason why is once you hook up on a fish, you need to haul them out so they don't dive back into those structure. The next lure I want to talk about is Fluke style soft plastic jerk baits. I love to rig these guys weedless, so I use a Texas rig type hook like from Gamakatsu, an extra wide gap, and I fish it mainly not with any weight, so it's basically weightless. This allows you to do a lot of things. First, you can fish it on high in the water column, whether it's top water or subsurface. And if you fish it in that scenario, I like to use either some sort of a walk the dog motion or jerk pause, and that will cover a lot of water and fish usually smash it when it drops. Another way you can fish it is actually let it slow drop and then you do a nice jerk so it rips up in the high in the water column and then fall back down, imitating a dying shad. Lastly, because it's weedless, you can fish it through covers like lily pads. Lily pads are a great place to fish during the fall because not all lily pads will die at the same time. So that leaves a lot of room for places where bass could hide in there. Bringing a weedless lure over it, you could trigger a lot of fish, and a lot of bait fish also use it as a highway because it's kind of like a safe haven. So a bass will definitely lurk either in or around the edges of those lily pads. Another thing is that you can skip it under trees. Some banks have some cutouts, especially if there's some sort of current. It may have a little channel underneath the trees by the bank. So in order for you guys to get in there, you may have to skip your lure. Having a weedless lure will allow you to get those lures into places where you can't with non-weedless lures. One more thing, guys, if you guys haven't watched my video on how to rig a double zoom fluke rig, you guys can check the card on the top right hand corner or description below because you can rig 2 flukes and catch a lot more fish because it looks like a schooling bait fish. Typically, I like to throw these lures in medium tackle as well. So I like to have braid line, something light like maybe 15 pound braid line, and you definitely want some leader material. So somewhere from 12 to 20 pounds depending on what type of conditions you guys have. And you guys can launch this lure very, very far, or you can skip it under docks, under trees. Spinning gear is the way to fish these lures. However, if you guys have some heavy cover, like you're actually fishing lily pads or you guys fishing places with a lot of trees or timber, you may want to up it and go with medium heavy, some braid line, heavier braid line, and heavier lead on material. Typically in that scenario, I'll throw something like a 20-pound to 30-pound braid line with at least a 20-pound full leader. Fall top water baits are awesome. You definitely want to get some top water baits, but you know, things like the Zara Spook, the Whopper Plopper, or the Pompadour Jr., they all have something in common: treble hooks. If you guys have a lot of leaves, some algae, or a lot of lily pads, those are not good lures to throw during this situation. So what I like to throw is a buzzbait. If you were to only have one top water lure for the fall, because you can't carry a lot of things, especially if you guys are like, you know, bank fishermen and you guys don't want to carry too much stuff, just bring a buzzbait with you. Buzzbait, you know, you can fish in the top water, you can fish it over some sparse weeds because it's gonna drag right over it. So a good example I mentioned earlier, which were the dying lily pads. The dying lily pads definitely gonna hold a lot of fish. So what you want to do is have that buzzbait. You could not only fish the side of the lily pads, you can actually drag that buzzbait across the lily pads in many parts, so you actually cover a lot more water. For buzzbaits, you definitely want to fish them in some sort of heavy action, because you're running the lure pretty fast. You could just stick with braid line. I like to throw like a 30-pound braid line on a medium heavy action rod. If you guys fish very early in the morning, make sure you guys have some sort of black or black and blue skirt, anything that's dark. And during the day when the sun is up, you guys have something like a white, some chartreuse, or white chartreuse combination, and that will bring you guys a lot of fish. So there you guys have it. Those are my top 3 bass lures, but I'm not gonna stop there. I'm gonna just give you guys a quick list of other lures. I won't go into too much details, just in case these top 3 lures does not fit your fishing style, or you know, your scenario does not call for these type of lures. So other popular fall lures would be a rattle trap. My favorite brand would be the Strike King, the Red Eye Shad. Spinner baits are definitely a good way to cover a lot of water too. If you guys like spinner baits, there's a new school version of that. It's called the underspin. It's basically a jig head with a spinner in the bottom, and you can put almost any sort of lures onto those underspins. I like to throw either a grub tail or some sort of soft paddle tail swim bait. Speaking of soft paddle tail swim baits, that is a awesome lure to throw, and I actually did a video about that not too long ago, so you guys can check the top right hand corner for that card or the description below, as I will provide a link in the description to that video. I hope you guys have found this list of fall bass lures very useful. If you guys have any questions about these lures, feel free to leave me a comment below, and I'll answer your questions as soon as possible, so you guys could go out there, catch some fish, and have an awesome fall fishing adventure. If this is your first time visiting my channel, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, because there's gonna be a lot more fishing videos as well as fishing tips. Any sort of topics that starts with T during T Day, which is always released on Thursdays. These videos will improve your fishing game. And here comes my famous last words, guys. The fish don't wait. Get out there, catch some fish. Peace out, guys.